To reconvene the special meeting of the City Council. We met in closed session. If we could have a report from our city attorney, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session during its 6 o'clock session. There were two main items on the agenda, one under anticipated litigation. The public should know that it lists 3 items. We were only able to do one of those 3 items. There was no reportable action with regard to that item. The second item is labor negotiations. We received an update from Tracy House, the labor negotiator for the city. With regard to the status of those negotiations, there was no other reportable action on that item. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned from the special meeting. And we have 2 minutes to go until we start the next meeting. There you go.
You got a court case on that? Is it good?
Okay, if I could, I'd like to call the Temple City Council regular meeting of January 6, 2015 to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here, both in the audience and watching us on TV. I'd like to have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Present.
Councilmember Vizcarra?
Here.
Councilmember Yu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez?
Here.
Mayor Bloom?
Here. Okay, for our invocation tonight, I believe Reverend Charles Castle, is he here? He was going to be here. Okay. Not here yet? Mr. Jambazian, would you be willing to do the invocation for us? And then following that, if you'd stay, Jim Law is going to lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance after that.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this new year that you've given us, Father, 2015. Thank you for the opportunities that it affords us. Father, help us to be good citizens in this city that you've given us. Father, thank you for the leaders who guide us and direct us, make decisions for our benefit and for our good. So, Father, thank you for this meeting tonight. We just pray that you'd give wisdom to each one of our 5 council members, our mayor, our city attorney, our city clerk, and also our city manager. So, Father, thank you for this time together tonight. May everything be done in order that it would please you. And we ask this all in your name. Amen.
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 Thank you, Jerry. Jim?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag Okay, thank you. Both Jerry and Jim, thank you very much. Item 5 on the agenda is presentations. We have none this evening. Item 6 is public comments. Items not listed on the agenda. We ask that you turn in papers here, and I have a number of people that would like to speak at this point. Let me start out, since Jim Law just did the Pledge of Allegiance, he gets to be first.
Back to it. Does not seem to be working.
About 6 months ago, I heard a rumor that there was going to be a Chick-fil-A coming to Temple City. It would shorten my speech if any of you could deny or admit it. No knowledge of it? About a year or 6 ago, I went to Boone, North Carolina, and was introduced to the chicken sandwich there and fell in love with it. And I've been trying to get them here. I went to Cerritos, bought the lunch, brought it up to give it to Mr. Pilato, I think was his name, city manager at that time, in 10. And he did nothing with it. But I wrote a letter to him and asked him if they would be interested in bringing him one to this area, and their answer was positive. And they intended to put 80 of them up. And since that time, my letter's dated November 2010. And since that time, there's been one in Walnut, there's one in Glendora, and there's one in PCC. And it's a going concern. It's well, family-oriented business, religious, not allowed to open on Sunday. And the owner of it just died less than 6 months ago and was in a big fight with the gay thing because he wouldn't hire gays. So with that, I won't read the letter. I'll just give it to the city manager and let him see what he can do with it.
Good, I appreciate that, and that's the right, I mean, our city manager is working on economic development issues, and so, Brian, you have it, you can proceed with it. Okay, second, I have Steve Stafford.
Mayor Blum, council members, Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, and city staff. I've spoke on this before about the street sweeping. There are still problems out there. One, the signs have to say except holidays. I got a ticket in East LA, and they were street sweeping on holidays, and ultimately through the appeal process, it got dismissed, and the judge noted the signs didn't say except holidays, and I was cited on a county holiday. And the judge dismissed it. Unless it says except holidays, the signs aren't valid. They have to say except holidays. 2, I've noticed no parking sign down on Laura Azusa, or actually on Temple City Boulevard, south of Laura Azusa. It's been screwed to a telephone pole. That is illegal by penal code. And there's 2 school signs there, no left, I think right turn, and another sign, both signs warning vehicles in front of Cloverleaf School on Broadway. They're again screwed to a telephone pole. That's illegal. I got a letter years ago from Edison. Everybody did, talking about just what I was saying. 595 of the penal code makes it illegal to post anything on a telephone pole, and it's a public safety issue with Edison. If their guys are going to have to climb that pole, and they get hurt, everybody's on the hook. Edison pointed that out in the letter. I wish I could find the letter. It was a while back, but everybody got the letter.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. If staff has any questions, I see you have a phone number on here for specifics, they can give you a call.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you, Steve. Okay, next I got Franklin Rudell.
Good evening,
Good evening.
council members, thank you. I live off of Garibaldi, and I appreciate the fact that now we have can go across Garibaldi, they're at the light and everything. But I was wondering if in your traffic observations and whatnot, what's been done since the light went in? Because there is more cars stacked in, of course, which didn't make any difference before it was a street, before it was crossing. They're there now that are parking, and at the signal, they're at Rosemead and other Temple City Boulevard, so it makes it more difficult for us to transverse. And this has become more of a thoroughfare with that new signal there. And I don't know if anybody has gone back and looked at what happened after the light. I know you looked at it before the light, but now that we've got the light, the traffic probably is being relieved from Las Tunas and other cross streets, and people are using that as we are, my family is, and other families, more often. So I think that ought to be checked out again, as going back and doing some after looking at it. There may be some more curbings that need to be painted red. Looking during certain business hours, there's heavier parking on the curbs, and that makes it more difficult to make right turns, et cetera, from either Rosemead or going south coming south on Rosemead, or going south from Rosemead, off Garibaldi, whether you're coming from the south and making the right, or you're going on Garibaldi and you're making a right onto Rosemead. I'm making myself entirely clear, but I think those need to be looked at. Now, there's also been discussion concerning crosswalks and other stop signs, and I had a luncheon with the mayor of Arcadia, and some of us in the room may have heard about the student who thought it was all right to go get up in the morning and not pay any attention to his dirty windshields, and had the sun in his eyes, and went through the crosswalk and killed a kid, a young girl. City got sued for $1 million over that. The city paid for it. They didn't go to trial on it. Why I'm telling you this is that the city was persecuted, or prosecuted, shall we say, for having that crosswalk. And the mayor made the comment, we have to think twice about whether or not we want to go to those safety requirements or safety measures in the future, because we're the ones that end up using taxpayers' dollars to pay for it. And I know we've discussed the need for certain signals a long time ago here and we said no because of what could happen. So I just want to make that as a passerby comment as we go through our deliberations, maybe on Encinitas and Longden as an example. So.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I know, the issue in Arcadia was a mid-block crosswalk.
That's
which
right, that's
we're
correct.
all very concerned. Everybody, that's a very.
And you have a new mid-block crosswalk on Broadway, if I'm not mistaken. I saw it just recently.
Where?
There at
Between Encinitas and Rosemead.
Encinitas, what? And what?
And Rosemead?
Yes, yeah. There. And it's not as well done as
Safe route to school.
as is obvious as the one in Arcadia.
Okay.
It didn't. Arcadia's got more money, so they can make it more well done. But
Okay, yeah, the issue of, additional traffic on Garibaldi, I know we periodically go back and do traffic counts and see things.
okay, well, I didn't know
So
whether you.
there's a regular schedule, and I don't know where it is in the
Yeah,
schedule.
well, I don't
but
either.
We check
I
those.
just noticed that the issue of the extra parking and the extra traffic going across tends to cause issues. And I notice it more in my particular quarter, but I don't want to just pick on mine and not have it go through all of them because there's two signals along that route.
Okay, I appreciate that, and obviously, whenever you put in a traffic control, things,
Yeah, that's right. You have
Adjust
to go
around
back and
them,
look
so
a
we're in
second time because,
yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Okay, next I have James Cleary.
Hello, Temple City. How are we all doing? I would first like to say thanks to the city council for all their time they invest. I know, it's thankless, and you constantly get, railroaded or, just streamed out about this and that, and I'm here to do that again today. I have a problem with your travel, your conferences you guys attended last year, and that you didn't, in the council agenda, that you did not mention any of that. You did mention your, $13 for gas, but you didn't mention airplane travel on the 18th of November. You didn't mention the hotel rooms or the $750 registration for the conference, and that was to the code enforcement. And for the life of me, I can't understand why we're spending money, God bless him, for Fernando to go to these. I know he's been a big player in this city for a long time, but he's not going to be here in a couple of months, and I don't see our value. And I would like to know why we're expending this kind of money and why we're not being the transparent city council that, you all want to be. This all started with the notice of the late fee to Bank of America for $49. I just wanted to find out about that. And I fell into this. They also charged us $148 for the interest on the late fee. Are you guys reading what's going on every month? Are you just rubber stamping it, or it's important? There's conferences. There's 3 conferences you guys have attended, and there's $7,000 worth of bills, and they're not even showing on item 15. Let's get a little more transparent. Or we'll go to Plan B, and Plan B is no good. Thank you for your time.
Okay, just to comment, I know all of the expenses are shown on the agenda items. Every one of those has been,
Yeah, they're shown, but you have to find them. They're in petty cash, or they're in the bills, and they're not where they're supposed to be, and that's item 15. There's a specific item 15 that states that money that you put out and monies that we shell out for you guys to go. I'm not bitching about you guys going to them. What I'm upset about is, hey, are we funding people going to things for like la-la and have a good time? What are we getting out of it for these conferences and luncheons? I mean, I don't see anything. I don't know. Maybe anyway, thank you.
okay, thank you very much, sir. Just for everybody's information, the items are there. All expenditures are listed in the agenda. And yes, we do go through those. If there's questions, we're asking staff what those items are and checking on it. So, and we also report every conference we attend. We're required to report back, and we have done so following every conference. Okay, any other public comments? Anybody in the audience care to bring anything, item that's up? If not, I will close public comments. We will move to item 7 on the agenda. It's the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussion. If members of the city council or persons in the audience wish to discuss any matters listed on the consent calendar, please address them at this time.
Mayor Bloom, I would make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? It's unanimously approved. We will now go to item 8, which is public hearings. Item 8A is an appeal of a Parks and Recreation Commission's decision relative to removal of a sweet gum tree located at 9839 Danes Drive. I believe we have a presentation from our Parks and Recreation Director, and for those that don't know, the trees, the responsibility for maintenance in the trees is under the Parks and Rec Commission and the Parks and Rec Director.
Thank you, Mayor Bloom. Good evening, council members and public. As indicated in the title, the item before you is an appeal of a Parks and Recreation Commission decision, which was an appeal of a staff decision to remove or not remove a sweet gum tree located at 9839 Danes Drive. As brief background, every year the city develops a tree removal list. The list includes trees that city staff, in particular our arborist Rob Cruz, has inspected and determined meet the criteria for removal as specified in section 3-4D-9 of the Temple City Municipal Code or other legislation. There are 11 criteria for removal listed in our code. A tree needs to meet at least one of these criteria. These are shown, and I'm not going to go over each one of them. At the request of the property owner, Rob Cruz inspected the sweet gum tree located in the public right-of-way at 9839 Danes Drive. The property owner indicated the tree was shading recently installed solar panels and requested that the tree either be removed or severely cut back. Upon inspection, Mr. Cruz determined that the tree was at least partially shading the solar panels from that tree, at least in the morning hours, and so based on past practice, added it to the removal list for 2014. And let me clarify that. Because this particular issue was not addressed in our code as any of the 11 criteria, we relied on past practice and information that staff had received during training sessions, at which time we were informed that there was legislation that required us to remove trees, whether they're public or private, if they're shading solar panels. Pursuant to our code section, again, 3-4D-9B, we placed a visible mark on the tree indicating it was scheduled for removal. The removal of the tree was appealed to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Upon further research and discussions with the city attorney preparing for the commission meeting, we discovered that the Solar Shade Control Act does not apply to trees that were planted before the installation of the solar collectors. Therefore, staff reconsidered its decision to remove the sweet gum tree and recommended the Parks and Recreation Commission approve the appeal not to remove the tree. Because we're talking about the Solar Shade Control Act in particular, we wanted to go over just some brief information on it, summary. The Solar Shade Control Act applies to cities and counties in California unless a locally adopted ordinance exempts such jurisdictions from the act. The city attorney has recommended we adopt an ordinance. We have not done that yet, so we are subject to the Solar Shade Control Act at this time. The act regulates both the installation and placement of solar collectors, as well as maintenance of trees and shrubs near solar collectors. I should mention this act was, I believe, approved in the 70s. I want to say it's been around for quite a while. After a solar collector is installed, any person who owns or controls nearby property may not allow a tree or shrub to be planted or to grow on that property in a way that results in the casting of a shadow greater than 10% of the solar collector absorption area upon the surface between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. However, the Solar Shade Control Act does not apply to the following: any trees or shrubs that were planted before the installation of the solar collector, or trees or shrubs that replace those that were growing on the property before the installation of the solar collector, but subsequently needed to be replaced because of the death of the tree or shrub, or for the protection of public health, safety, or the environment, or trees and shrubs subject to a city or county ordinance. So with that additional information, we recommended the commission not remove the tree. The sweet gum tree at 9839 Danes Drive is estimated to be at least 40 years old. It is in the picture up there. The permit for the installation of the solar panels was issued in December of 2012 and finalized in June of 2013. Therefore, it is clear that the tree was there before the solar panels were installed. The Parks and Recreation Commission considered the appeal at their meeting on November 19th, 2014. After hearing testimony from the appellant, the property owner, and other interested parties, the commission approved the appeal, reversing staff's initial decision to remove the tree. In making their decision, the commission agreed that the sweet gum tree was exempt from the Solar Shade Control Act and therefore did not meet any other requirement for removal. I should mention that the commission was very sympathetic with the property owner and realized that it was casting some shadows. However, they felt that it was the installer's responsibility to look at the entire property and make a determination before the panels were installed. The property owner appealed the commission's decision to the council, which is what we're here tonight for. They again stated that the tree shaded the solar panels, resulting in the panels not being able to generate solar power. The property owner also stated that the gas company indicated there was a gas leak on the property, which they believed was caused by the roots from the sweet gum tree,
I'm sorry, who is they?
the property owner.
Okay.
Staff spoke with a representative from the gas company who confirmed there was a small leak near the base of the tree. However, they would neither confirm nor deny that the leak was caused by the roots. They will never give us a definitive answer. But they repaired the leak and rerouted the gas line, so that leak has been taken care of. These are just a few photographs of the tree in particular at the property. You can see the solar panels are would be on the left of the home, which is the west-facing area. And this is a shot of the street showing there are many other trees of this size adjacent to the property. Staff recommends that the City Council uphold the Parks and Recreation Commission's decision approving the initial appeal to not remove the sweet gum tree located at 9839 Danes Drive. Rob Cruz, our arborist, is here if there are any specific questions in regards to the tree. And that concludes our report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any council member questions?
I have a couple.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Director Burrows, the report indicates that the homeowner had contended that the tree has grown significantly since the solar panels were installed. And I believe the report states that the last trimming was on June 22nd of 2011.
Correct.
Are there any future trimmings, and if so, when? Do we know when that would be? And does this situation warrant a trimming of the tree that, I don't know, in my mind may help the situation?
And I can answer that, and I'll also turn it over to Mr. Cruz to address that. The tree, the city is on a 4-year trim cycle, so all the trees are trimmed 4 years. This was last done in 2011, as you mentioned, interestingly enough, about 4 or 5 months before the windstorm. And in fact, several of the sweet gum trees on this block had to be removed because of the windstorm. This was not one of them. One of the recommendations we took to the commission was to trim this tree more often than the 4 years, and the property owner indicated that that probably wouldn't help enough. One of our challenges is we follow best practices in regards to trimming, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cruz. At any one time, we do not remove more than 25% of the foliage because it's not healthy for the tree. And so if we were to severely cut it back or cut it back more often, it could compromise the tree, and Rob might be able to provide additional information on that.
You just don't want to over-thin the tree because then you'll be taking the energy away from the tree. That'll affect the tree. By lowering the tree with the sweet gum trees, what it does, they have a lot of tendency to rot. And then you get trunk rot. The bigger cuts you make, the longer it takes for it to, trees don't heal, but what they do is they seal closed. And for that tree would cause a lot more problems. And as it grows back, the limbs that grow back, instead of one healthy, strong limb, it's going to grow back maybe 5 to 15 small limbs, which need to be continuously trimmed back so they don't, because they're going to cross and touch each other and tend to break each other. So, you know, you don't want to over trim the tree, but it's growing now to where it probably could be, in one more year, it could go back to the 25% would be, it would be the proper amount. Right now, it's probably like at, like 15%.
Rob, do you have an opinion as to what is primarily blocking the sun from the panels? Is it the tree, it's the height of the tree or the foliage of the tree? Is there any one factor or any part of that tree having more of an effect on the sun
As
getting to
you
those
can see
panels?
symmetrically, the tree has been, trimmed back in.
It looks rather thin.
Yeah, and it is pretty thin. So, the height would probably be affecting more. It looks a little fuller, I believe, in the picture than it does in person if you go look at it. So I
When was
think
this
the
picture
height-
taken, for example?
That
Was this
picture-
recently?
This one was
Recent picture?
taken probably about a month or two ago. It's a relatively
Yeah,
recent.
so I'd say
And you indicated that the cycle is 4 years, and it was last trimmed in 2011. So that would mean this year it's scheduled for another trim?
It's scheduled next fiscal year. They're by fiscal years.
Okay.
So it's not on this year's trim
So
cycle, it'll be on next year's.
6/22/11 was the last trim, so it wouldn't be till June of 2016?
It would be the 15-16 cycle, so it'll be after July of 2015.
Okay.
Another thing to take into consideration, the tree is deciduous, so most of the leaves are falling off or falling right now. I haven't
Wow.
seen it for a couple of weeks, so I'm in on vacation, but, so so it is losing more leaves, so there should be more sun on the solar panels now.
And, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Do we know if it's a problem year-round?
Um,
I would think in the middle of summer, minimally, when the sun's directly overhead, it would,
Well, there's a couple issues with this, and as you can see by the photograph, the neighbor just would be to the west. There's another tree right there, which shades the solar panels all afternoon. Not all afternoon, but part of the afternoon as well. This tree, the property owner's tree only shades in the morning, for about an hour and a half, actually. We've taken pictures, and checked it out. And so between 10:30 and noon is when it shades it. We didn't necessarily bring that up during the staff report because the tree itself, again, is not subject to the Solar Shade Control Act. And so the trees have pretty much lost their leaves on this block anyway for the year. They're getting less and less. It's mostly just branches now. I couldn't answer how much impact it has. The property owner is here in the audience. I don't know if they can answer that question or not.
okay, are there any other
Yeah,
questions?
question for Mr. Cruz. Now, this is being a deciduous tree in the, this time of the year when the leaves are gone, isn't that, now is a good time to trim a tree like that?
Yeah, most trees, it's a good time to trim because the leaves, the energy is falling off, so, but really what you'd want to do is just mostly trim out the dead branches.
Right.
And, and it's harder to thin it when you can't see the leaves, but you're right, a lot of deciduous trees, it's better to trim them in the fall through the winter.
So I guess what I'm trying to find out, is there a better time to trim the tree and maybe could be trimmed sooner than 4-year cycle to keep it, maybe now instead of waiting another year,
Yeah,
being the winter
yeah,
with
it
no
could- it
leaves
could
and
be.
now we go out and trim it a little bit better?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from council members?
One quick question. Director Burrows, safe to say, I think that this tree has been there for a while and it hasn't changed much. Did anybody ask the homeowner, maybe they can come up and answer this question, did the installer ever evaluate the position of the tree versus where the panels were going to be located? Obviously, the tree was already there when they put the panels in.
That was a question that was asked at the commission meeting. The property owner was not able to answer that question. We have subsequently heard through the permitting process that we don't believe it was installed by a company, possibly a private individual, but I couldn't say for sure. The permit was not pulled by a solar company.
Thank you.
Was the permit pulled at all?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions from council? Okay, if not, we will open the public hearing. And I'd like to invite Mr. Louie, if he's here, the property owner, if you'd like to say anything in the beginning. Yes. Okay, come on up to the podium.
What questions you
Good
ask?
evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, if you could give us your name, please, and address, and then any
Mo.
statement you'd like to make at this point.
Mo Louis, address 9839 Thanks Drive, Temple
Okay,
City.
could you speak in, pull the mic down, there you go.
Mo Louis,
Okay,
address 9839 Thanks Drive, Temple City.
okay. And do you have anything to say to us at this point?
What you want me to say?
Well,
I don't know, because, you know, I just want to trim the tree. My solar panel can generate the solar, the power. That's the main idea that I want to. I put a lot of money on that, and then it's not worth it. But when I apply for the permit, but they agree me to put on that side. But if you cannot trim the tree lower, but at the beginning, you should tell me you cannot put the solar panel, so I'm not going to put the solar panel on it. So
Ms. Louis, who installed your solar panels?
it's the company,
What was the name of the company?
Sun Valley,
Sun Valley?
yes. It's a
And
company.
do you know whether your installer evaluated the position of those panels versus the position of the tree?
Yeah, that is, on that side, it's only one side can generate the power, only that side. If you put on the other side, it's no sun, no sun at all.
Do you recall the time of day that your installer was out there looking at the position of the panels?
Yes,
What
they
time
look
was
at it. You're talking about the company?
The time of the day the company was out there looking at the position of the panels?
During the middle day, about like, I think lunchtime,
And is that the only time they were out there?
yes.
Did they make any representations to you about what the city would or would not do regarding the tree?
Yeah, the solar company only can say something is asking the city can trim the tree or cut lower.
I'm sorry, I don't really understand. They
Okay.
said that,
The solar company recommend me to asking the Temple City to trim the tree. Or,
was this before or after they installed the panels?
before and after. Because I told them I bought my Edison bill to asking the company why it cannot generate the power. And then he come to look at it, it's a tree, block the shape, block the sun, cannot generate it. And then also the Edison company, they have a very tricky timing, the general, the hour for us, for me. It's from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The power generated belong to me. The rest of the hour is belong to the Edison. So I don't have that much time. The power can generate to me, I can use. Right now, I did not bring the bill. Last month, only generate 93 volt. Supposed to generate about like 400 to 600 volt. So it cannot generate anything. And both trees to block up, even my one and on 9838 something, I don't know what street, the number, but that one's blocked also too, both.
So the next door neighbor's tree is also blocking your
Yes.
panels?
Yes,
And did the company discuss that with you as well?
that one, no,
Did they evaluate that at all for you? and
Yeah,
let
that
you know?
one, no, that one, no. I only, after I cannot generate the power, I bought the bill to the solar company, the installation for me, and we discussed all the problem that I have.
Okay, thank you.
So don't only asking the city can trim lower lower the tree or trim the tree, it can help.
All right, thank you.
But if you're not going to tree, to remove, that's fine. I only just,
Okay, is any
Yeah.
other council members?
Mrs. Liu, do
Yeah.
you notice a huge increase in your solar gain? And now that it's winter, the leaves are all gone? Because trees
No.
should not be casting any shadows.
yeah, it is still, no, the leaf is not falling down everything yet, no. Still have a lot of leaves.
Still has a lot of leaves.
Yes, long. Right now, covered all the whole panel, the whole thing right now. The whole thing. the whole thing.
From the shadow of this.
Yeah, from the
this one
shadow, yeah,
tree.
the cover, the whole thing. So I need your help. I put a lot of money on it.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one really quick question.
Yes.
Do you know who pulled the permit to install the solar panels?
I pulled a permit.
You pulled it?
Yes.
Was that at the direction of your company? Why didn't they pull it?
Yeah, and then I hired the architecture to draw the planning, and then submit it, and then I get approved, and then I bought this plan to the solar company.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from other council members? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I need your help.
Okay, we have one other speaker that has asked to speak at this time. It's Carol Cushing, if she's here.
Is that for this issue or the next?
This is item, oh, excuse me, this is item 8B.
I think she did appeals on both.
But she files
Okay.
appeal both.
Okay. Could you give us your name and address, please?
I'm at 9833 Danes Drive, directly west of the tree, of the house with the tree we're talking about. And I did a lot of research on the installation of solar panels, and I would like to share this with the whole council.
Well, is this relevant to this issue?
Extremely relevant.
I know you've given us a lot of
I can make it
information
short.
already, and we've read that information.
Oh.
Okay.
The key when you install solar panels, if you look it up online, if at all possible, your panels should be facing south to get the optimum amount of power that you want to have. If you have a roof that does not face the south, then there are other things that they can do. And the key is that your solar panel company they analyze the situation before they ever install so that you know what you're getting. And the key words are placement and tilt of your solar panels. If they have to be put on a west-facing roof, then they tilt them towards the sun so that you can get the power that you need. And there are other choices at this house. They have a roof on the garage that is not shaded at all, has no tree shading at all on the roof. And I just think it's up to the solar panel company to, if all the trees in front of this house, if 3 or 4 trees were removed, it is still not going to give them the power that they need and want from their panels because of the placement and the tilt.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else under the public hearing? Anyone else care to speak on this issue? Mr. Cleary. Name and address, please, for the record.
10531 East Freer Street, Temple City, California. James Clary. I think you guys are onto something with using the bill. When it goes naked, they need to look at it and see what their actual effectiveness is, where the placement is. And thank you, Ms. Cushing, for doing what you're doing, saving trees, because we need about 50 more trees like that size. And I appreciate what you're doing. That tree does not need to go. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. Okay, anyone else care to speak at this time? Okay, if not, I will close public comments. Council comments? Anybody care to comment at this point?
It's, in my mind, it's buyer beware. It seems that some research wasn't done, or, I don't know. I fail to see a reason to remove the tree. I guess that's my bottom line.
Okay, Councilmember Yu.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I believe it's an unfortunate situation. I'm sympathetic to Mr. and Mrs. Liu. I mean, they obviously spent a lot of money, but unfortunately, I think they bought something that does really belong there. I agree with the placement of the solar panel. West facing is really not a very good orientation. And even this is, I doubt this tree actually shades it that much, because the panels are facing west to begin with, so it's the trees on the west side of the house that's really blocking it the most, so.
They're not gonna get any sun till 1 o'clock probably.
Right, like in the morning or early morning when this tree's actually shading, you know, the sun is actually not even coming onto the solar panel, they're coming from the east side, so it's really not that much sun to be falling on the solar panel to begin with, so. Unfortunately, I have also have a bad deal with Addison, and hopefully you can renegotiate that, so that the timing is not from 10 to 2. Perhaps it's something you can appeal to Addison about that. So, but other than that, maybe we can suggest we go on a more frequent trimming cycle, maybe 3 year or something like that. But on that, I just don't see the need to remove the tree.
Okay, Councilmember Sternquist?
Well, I appreciate your efforts in being energy conscious and trying to conserve energy, but I agree with my colleagues that the tree should stay. And I know that the city has worked at trying to trim the tree as much as they can without jeopardizing the viability of the tree. So I would have suggested maybe we could cut the tree a little bit more, but it seems like we're already cutting the tree to the maximum to what is going to keep the tree healthy. I would suggest that you try and work more with the solar company that installed the panels. I think they didn't give you the best advice, and if you need to seek legal advice, you might just want to do that. But I don't think it's the city's responsibility to take on, that issue. And I think the tree should stay.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree with my colleagues. I think staff has done a good job in evaluating the situation. I understand the plight of the Louis. However, I also agree. I think you have to take a look at this solar company, and I don't think they did you too many favors here. It appears to be a situation of both installation and placement, none of which the city really has control over. And so I think, unfortunately, that's where you need to look and see if you have any recourse with those who installed the panels.
Okay, thank you. I agree with my colleagues. I'll have to share with you that as Councilmember Sternquist said, I think we want to encourage, energy efficiency, use of solar panels. I've been looking at doing something at my house probably for the last 10 years and evaluating it. I also have a big tree in front, which gives me a lot of shade, which means I don't need to spend as much money on air conditioning because I'm getting the shade from the tree. So you've got this trade-off, and if you don't have the right circumstances, the solar companies need to be giving you good advice because, I talked to one solar company and they said, as much as we'd like to sell you a system, we don't think you're going to get what you would like to get out of it. And I think everybody needs to look at that when we go forward. We do like to have trees in our city. Obviously, we've planted a lot of trees and we take great pride, and I think our tree maintenance people do a good job of keeping our urban forest here. And so I agree with my colleagues. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we uphold the Parks and Recreation Commission's decision to not remove the tree.
Second?
Okay, before that, I need to make sure that I close the public hearing. If I haven't, I formally close the public hearing at this point. Okay, so we now have a motion and a second to uphold the Parks and Rec Commission decision to not remove the tree. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, this item has been unanimously approved to not remove the tree. Okay, we'll now go to item B on the public hearing. This is an appeal of a Parks and Recreation Commission decision relative to removal of a sycamore tree located at 5471 Golden West Avenue. We're all in the same part of town here, so we have staff report, please.
Again, thank you, Mayor, Council. Similar to your last item, this also is an appeal of a Parks and Recreation Commission decision to not remove a sycamore tree at 5471 Golden West Avenue. I won't go through the same background. As you know now, we develop a tree removal list. At the request of the property owner, again, Rob Cruz inspected the sycamore tree located in the public right-of-way at 5471 Golden West Avenue. He determined that the tree had caused significant hardscape damage to the public sidewalk and street, and possibly to driveways, walkways, and other hardscape areas on the homeowner's private property. Again, we looked at whether that met any criteria for removal, and the criteria up here again. Number 7, as you can see, is one of the criteria for removal, causing excessive damage to curbs, gutters, sidewalks, or driveways. Again, we marked the tree with an X, and the removal was appealed by a resident to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Now, the sycamore tree is estimated to be at least 80 years old and appears to be in good health. It is an extremely large tree, very beautiful tree. However, there does appear to be significant hardscape damage to the sidewalk, street, curb, and other hardscape areas in the public right-of-way. Unfortunately, only one large root is visible, so we can't say with 100% certainty that roots are causing the problems. But we are, based on our experience, we are relatively confident that that is the case. Again, the most recent maintenance on this tree was the regular grid pruning in October of 2011. Our staff also did crown clearing and raising just this past January on this tree.
I'm sorry, Kathy, you did what?
We did crown clearing and raising. You want to know what that is?
Yeah, so we took some suckers off the bottom that were obstructing the sidewalk. There's a few more now that are going back. And then we just raised the crown up a little bit to just clear for the traffic.
The crown of?
Of the, yeah, the bottom of the skirt of the tree, just to keep it out of the traffic.
But that doesn't necessarily help, Mr. Cruz, the sidewalk lifting. and-
No, yeah,
No.
it doesn't.
That's the root system.
Yeah, it's the root
causing-
system, totally different.
On November 19th, the Parks and Recreation Commission considered the appeal of staff's decision to remove the sycamore tree. Again, after hearing testimony from the appellant and other interested parties, the commission approved the appeal and reversed staff's decision to remove the tree. In making their decision, the commission reasoned that the hardscape damage was repairable, at least for the time being, and that every step should be taken to save the tree due to its age and size. The commission did request staff look at various options to repair the hardscape damage without compromising the tree, including possibly sloping the sidewalk over the root system or rerouting the sidewalk if there was sufficient right-of-way.
Can I ask
The
a
property,
question? In a situation like that, do we have the authority to loop onto private property?
no.
We do not.
No, and in my discussions with the city attorneys, they do not recommend that at all, going onto private property. We did look at the right-of-way in this area, and there is not sufficient public right-of-way to reroute the sidewalk. The property owner appealed the decision of the Parks and Recreation Commission to the City Council, citing the ongoing hardscape damage. Pursuant to the commission's request to look at other options, we did speak with representatives from TransTech, the city's engineering firm. We asked them about 2 possible options, which I mentioned. One would be sloping the sidewalk over the roots or rerouting the sidewalk. In our discussions with TransTech, they said, yes, you can slope the sidewalk over the roots, but it would be temporary at best. The roots are not going to get any smaller. Any work you do now will likely have to be done again in another year or 2 years. The bigger issue,
When you say sloping the sidewalk, what exactly?
you would have
do
a
you mean?
ramp up and over the roof that would have to meet ADA requirements, so it could only be sloped a certain amount, a certain degree.
Okay.
And one of the issues we have is in particular, the route that is raising the sidewalk is adjacent, well, obviously they're all adjacent to the trunk, but the part that's causing the problem is right next to the trunk of the tree. So really you can't, normally we would grind the root system down so it was not interfering with the sidewalk. Because it is so close to the base of the trunk of the tree, that is not recommended because any cuts at that point to the trunk could compromise the integrity of the tree. So if it was the roots that were further out from the base of the tree, then it would certainly be a viable option. But because it's right adjacent to the trunk, that is really not an option at this point. So the only option would be to raise the sidewalk over the root. And again, we're not recommending that because it's temporary at best. The bigger concern when we talked with Transtech was the street. That part of the street, and you know there is a pavement management plan now, and the city has budgeted funds to redo a lot of the streets in the city. That is one of the first ones that is scheduled to be redone within the next 3 to 6 months, Transtech tells us. And if the issue with the roots is not dealt with, then that could cause problems if and when that street is resurfaced.
Is there any damage to the street now?
There isn't, it's difficult to see, and we'll get some pictures in a few minutes, but we do believe that there is a root that is raising the sidewalk in that area. In fact, let me go to these.
Why not raising the sidewalk, but?
I mean, sorry, the street. It's an area, the arrow was pointing to it, it's very difficult to see in this photograph. Interestingly enough, it was much more obvious in the summer when it was hot.
Is there a crack there?
There are some cracks there, and it is raised a little bit as well. That's the sidewalk. I really don't have a good picture showing that. The curb and gutter obviously is cracked as well. So the best one we have is this raised area. It's a slightly raised area that we believe is being caused by a root.
I was going to say, usually, you know, when a root is raising the curb and gutter, it's affecting the drainage pattern and blocking it. It looks like we've got a drainage cross
Yes.
gutter here shortly before this, so that part really wouldn't be affecting it. The water coming down would be diverted off here rather than having to go down the street. So that, what normally causes a problem with that, doesn't look like that would be a situation with this tree here.
And it's pretty
That's
steep
correct.
there too.
Yeah.
So you get a good flow.
Yeah.
Just in wrapping this up, although we do make every effort to not remove healthy trees, staff is recommending that this tree be removed and replaced with a jacaranda tree. Jacaranda is the species that is now approved for that area, that block. And that concludes our report.
The slope that you were talking about, Transtech indicated that would be a temporary fix at best. Can you define that a little bit more? What, 6 months, a year, 2 years, what are we talking about?
Well, none of us will really give a firm answer on that. Both Rob and myself and Transtech have all discussed it, and unless the roots are removed, it's hard to say. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. We just don't know.
Well, that makes a big difference, obviously.
I agree. I wish I had a firmer answer.
One thing we do know is that the roots are gonna grow every year. You know, it depends, it's seasonal. If it's a good year for the tree, that's what the growth rings come in. It's gonna get larger, you know, I think it's gonna be a larger growth. The root is gonna do the same thing. I
Let
mean,
me
it could
ask
be-
this a different way then. We know what it looks like now. Has anyone been monitoring that area? How much has it changed in the last couple
Oh,
of
they-
years?
they-
Significantly, little
Yeah,
bit?
the property owner has called several times over the last 10 years and asked for the tree.
10
to be-
years?
Yeah, probably 10 years. Because I have some old work orders that, you know, that we've been putting it off. But I would say the sidewalk has increased maybe 4 to 6 inches in slope. I mean, it's kind of growing together, like, it's like a ramp almost, like.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a large tree already, as, you know, I mean, trees, as with people, only grow so big usually. You know, is this one close to its
Well,
maximum growth?
The cells have to divide, so every year it's gonna get a little bit bigger. So the trunk is also, I mean, it could be part of the trunk that's pushing on the sidewalk, or it could be the root that's underneath the sidewalk. It's really hard to tell unless we, you know, remove the sidewalk and then start, you know, getting in there to see. The problem is if you root prune too close to the tree, then you're gonna have trunk rot on the bottom. like I talked about, it's not gonna heal. It's gonna try to seal itself closed, but if it doesn't, then it's gonna start rotting. And sycamores are pretty susceptible to rot also.
So, I actually have a couple of questions here. I'm actually more concerned about tripping and falling, and also the fact that it clearly does not meet ADA right now.
No.
I mean, people, so I have that concern. And I think, like Mayor Pro Tem had asked, I actually would like to see some kind of a ramp going up and down. I understand it's not gonna be a permanent solution, but regardless, this has to be fixed. Either the tree has to go or the sidewalk has to be repaired one way or another, because as it exists, it's a tripping hazard, doesn't meet ADA. But I really hate to see the tree go. I mean, it's a great, nice-looking tree. So the question for you, Mr. Cruz, is that how much bigger is this tree gonna get? It's already a fairly big tree, and you said every year it's gonna get bigger.
Right.
The question really lead up to is, if we do nothing at all, would a tree die because it's just so cramped? And then, like you said, it's susceptible
No,
to...
it should, with the pressure of the growth rings, if you put a tape measure on, every year you'll see that it's growing.
Right.
And in some cases, it's not always the roots that are pushing, it's the pressure of the earth and the ground being pushed by the force of the tree. And it's only gonna be maybe a half, probably a quarter to a half inch on a good year if it's
So the
lucky.
sidewalk would not damage the tree, but the tree would damage the
Right,
sidewalk.
and the tree, could live for a long time, 80 years. I mean, I could imagine it could probably live another 40 years, probably. It's very healthy, a very, very healthy tree.
Any other,
I think, I believe, one real quick, there was a mention, I think, in the report about potential issue regarding the gas line as well, or the gas meter. Has that issue been resolved, or what? Is that
The
a
property
concern?
owner, and I don't believe the property owner is here, the property owner had contacted me and said that, well, we knew that the tree was putting some pressure on the vault around the gas meter. The property owner called me and indicated that the gas company had come out and told them that, in his words, it was worse than we thought, and the gas company was going to be providing documentation to us. We never received anything. I contacted the property owner again and told him we hadn't received anything, and so I don't have any documentation on that.
So the gas company told the property owner that the situation was worse than they had originally thought?
And that is in the property owner's words, yes.
But we got nothing in writing?
No.
Nothing has come to our attention?
One thing I do want to mention, though, and this is not going to be an isolated situation, the more we put sidewalks in where we didn't have them before and we have large trees in place, we're going to have this problem. And you got to remember, this tree was probably planted before there were any sidewalks, and maybe even before the street was there. And when we're starting to put more sidewalks in for ADA requirements, and we have trees that are already in the public right-of-way, we're building the sidewalks in the public right-of-way, and it's encroaching onto the trees. So this is not an isolated incident, and we likely will have more and more of these as the sidewalks go in and we start to see this type of damage.
Well, one of the issues I think that hasn't been discussed, and maybe we should, and that is the liability issues. And I think that that has to be taken into account. But my concern would be whatever option we choose, since there is some potential liability issues, and I hate to sound like a broken record because I brought this up before, but should JPIA we should get their input on this kind of issue.
I'll take,
Especially one involving a ramp.
understood, and we will follow up on that, and an item you're going to see later talks about some of the issues that you face from a liability standpoint, but also some of the protections that you have. This is kind of a unique situation where, we're making some discretionary decisions on and preserving, it sounds as though if the council goes that direction, preserving the tree and doing some extraordinary things. We can definitely check. My initial inclination would be the design immunity issue would also play out, but we'd have to I think your inclination, Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, is to double check that too with the unique situation that we have here. And we can obviously do that with our risk manager at JPIA.
I have just a couple of questions. Was this brought to our attention because the resident called again and said this is an issue?
Yeah, well, they really called about, trying to have the tree removed, I believe, and then when I came out, of course, the sidewalk was like that, and that's part of the criteria on the ordinance, is if the sidewalk is a safety hazard.
Well, Rob, do we go out and look for these things? Because I'd like to share that I can tell you at least 10 different similar spots with trees like that that are in the city, and I'm concerned if we take out this tree, are we then going to be taking out all the other trees that have a similar, elevation? Actually, this one looks a lot safer than some of the other ones, because here at least you look like you can just walk over it and,
There's no
it's not
displacement.
like this,
Right.
where someone is
Displacement,
going to stick their foot in and trip.
Yeah.
So my concern is, we need to look at the broader picture here as what are we gonna do citywide with situations like this before we do one individual tree, take it out, and then where are we gonna be?
Councilmember Sternquist brings up a good point, and there's their general and I'm sorry, Mr. Cruz, let me just add one point to Councilmember Sternquist's statement. With that, we also have to look, we do carry liability with street trees. Anything in the public right of way, the city assumes some liability. So what we can do too is come back with a little bit more information globally, is what you're kind of pointing to talk also about the liability issue that's there too, and what we can do as mitigation measures. There's a lot of other cities that have different tree preservation ordinances around the San Gabriel Valley and around California. We can get a better sense for you so that you feel if these issues come up again, and depending on your decision tonight, you can have a little bit more global understanding too. Because the reality is that work in the public right of way, activity in the public right of way, we hold that liability at the end of the day. That's the risk we carry, but it's a risk we carry for a lot of different types of activities, including street trees.
I believe we used to have the County of Los Angeles Public Works check a pavement once every 2 years.
We still
Do you still have that, right?
We still have the county doing some of the pavement work. I don't know if we do this, if they're doing the side. Michael, Mr. Forbes is
Not
saying no,
anymore?
nothing on the sidewalk side, so we can take a look.
I know-
JPIA actually is requiring every agency to do a
I
pretty
know they have
aggressive.
people doing that
Yeah,
as
and
routinely.
we'll take a look at that too.
Okay.
Just want to mention that at one of our former conferences that we attended, we talked
make
about
note
that.
of it?
Yeah, we did make note of that as well. They had an issue about this, and I'm not an expert in trip and fall cases, but you don't have to have an open area necessarily for there to be a case. They really go more by height of the change in the height from
Displacement.
what
Yeah.
you were walking on. So that could very well be just as dangerous a situation as if there was a
Yeah.
hole there.
Yeah.
So,
One other question for Mr.
I
Cruz.
was just gonna answer Cynthia's question. I think it's really every tree is on a personal, on a need-to basis. I mean, in some cases, if you had to grind a lot of roots, it'd be a lot better to take the tree out. You know what I mean? Each situation has to be determined, really. Because the root system, that's really close to the tree. The roots are the foundation. So if you're starting to move roots, then you really need to look at the
Well,
tree.
that
I'm
brings
sorry.
up to my questions. Number one, how long will this tree has to live in your estimate? It's been 80 years, it's gonna live another 200 years? And is there life to sycamores?
I think it could live at least another 70 or 80 years.
Okay.
I'm just guessing.
Second part of the question, you don't recommend taking out the roots because that might damage the tree, and the tree might die as a result of that. And that means the tree would eventually have to be taken out. And whereas staff is actually recommending taking out the tree right now instead of cutting portion of the branches just in case the tree might die. Wouldn't it be better that we actually attempt to cut the tree, the root, and then wait and see maybe the tree doesn't die? Because if it dies, you have to take it out anyway.
You know what I was gonna suggest?
Yeah.
Is that minimally, we're gonna have to take that sidewalk out
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
do
think-
something. Once you take it out, you dig everything out, you have a better idea of what you have, and maybe we can make a smarter evaluation at that point. I would, I think that might be the way to go. As far as how long they lived, we used to have a ranch in Mexico. We had 200-year-old sycamores there.
Yeah.
All over the place. That's how long they had been there.
Okay.
Well, it's not really, I'm sorry, not really a question that it's gonna die, but you are, the integrity of the tree by cutting the roots out, because that's the foundation, that's what's holding it, so, I mean,
yeah.
that might be the main.
You worry about the stability.
Yeah, the stability,
So,
so,
okay.
it could take a
Got
long
it.
time for it to die, but.
All right.
Yeah, if I recall, is this the one where a separate arborist also looked at the tree and said, so our staff plus a separate arborist has looked and said, this is a very healthy tree at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, if not, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is the property owner, Mr. Bala, here? Okay, the property owner is not here. We also have one other requested speaker, Carol Cushing. You care to come up on this issue?
Councilmember Sternquist, for once, it's not on Camellia. It's on my street.
Your name and address for the record, please.
9833 Danes Drive,
Okay.
about 6 houses away from the sycamore tree, down Danes Drive. I would just add that a different arborist that I spoke to, besides Rob, he comes from the city of South Pasadena, and I would like to say that South Pasadena, Glendora, it's a $500 fine to remove this tree because it's a California native. Most cities around go to a great deal of trouble to save a tree like this because it's a protected tree and because it is a magnificent tree. And I researched the sycamore tree online in depth. I could write a good term paper on it, and they live to be 400 years or better, can live over 400 years. So it is good and healthy, and the arborist that I spoke to seemed to think that it would be well worth it to save the tree. Also, an arborist at the Los Angeles County Arboretum also recommended the same thing, that it said that it would be a shame to take it down. And I took a little bit of time, and I have 200 signatures of Temple City residents that would like to save the tree. And I could probably this was done in about 4 hours, so I think I could get 500 pretty easily, pretty quickly, if you want other people's opinion.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I also have a request from Franklin Rudell to address this issue.
Council members, Franklin Riddell, 635 Bartlett. Yes, I'm in favor of saving the tree myself. I'm also in favor of getting back to looking at where we put sidewalks. And on our own Garibaldi, on Bartlett where we're living, the city has decided, in their wondrous wisdom, to put sidewalks on both sides of a narrow street. And if you go 2 more houses down, you're going to have the same problem again, because their lawn isn't deep enough to have a lawn after you put the sidewalk in. So I think, as you have done on Muscatel, you've said, let's just put them on one side of the street. I think that's a wise thought. I don't know whether I think there is, I don't know if there's one on the other side of the street or not at this particular point for the picture, but I think there isn't. So, but Kathy brought this up, and I think this is something you need in considering whether you want trees or not. How do we work this out? In the county area on Muscatel, north of Longden, actually north of Emperor, the county wanted to put in sidewalks on the west side, no, excuse me, east side of the street. And they got overruled because the people would have absolutely no front yards at all. So they had to stop where they stopped, there at Emperor Avenue. I know that's not Temple City, but it's something to look at. So I think that's part of what you need to consider in doing this. One last thing that actually goes to your side. If you don't check out the gas pipe, it'll kill the tree. If that gas pipe breaks, it'll kill the tree. You don't have to have any poisoning, don't have to have anything else, just gas alone will kill the tree. So,
Okay, thank you, sir.
okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, I have one other request from Mary Ann Noonan.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Noonan, and my address is 9920 East Danes, which is probably illegible on what I just filled out, but thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to point out, as I did at the Parks and Rec Commission hearing, well, first of all, I'd like to thank Rob and his crew because they have clearly helped to keep this a healthy tree. And I think if there were already a gas leak, the tree would be reflecting that, which it's not. And it's come through not only our horrendous windstorm, but the winds we had a couple weeks ago perfectly fine. So I'm just kind of a little bit historical on this in that, as I mentioned, my family's lived on Danes. I didn't live there the entire time myself, but since September of 1958. And I used to walk home from St. Luke's, my St. Luke's shirt, when I was in grammar school. And I would walk under the tree, and I don't think we had the sidewalk all the way there at the time. But you always had to watch your step a little bit. And I personally haven't noticed a huge difference between then and now. And I was one of the people that, discussed a ramp. And I happened to go to an office building in Long Beach recently, and it's mostly medical offices. And I had never noticed before, but it's an older building. And the walkway is right next to the building. There's no gap. And what they've done is put up ramps into each office. And I swear, they are steeper. Obviously, they have to be ADA compliant, but they're steeper and shorter than any ramp would be on this, because it seems to me that you don't necessarily just have to do 3 squares. You might need to do 5 and make it a little bit more gradual. And I know that the sidewalk was taken up, I don't know why, 1 or 2 houses down since the Parks and Rec hearing. And that didn't seem to be a big deal. So even if we have to work on the sidewalk repeatedly, I certainly think it would be worth it. And although I'm not an officer, I'm a member of the Historical Society, and they were appalled. Everyone knows this tree. Everyone in Temple City knows this tree. And just couldn't imagine. And as I said, my family has been there all these many, many years. And that tree has not only been, if not an official landmark, certainly a landmark in people's hearts. And when I was growing up, I don't remember it being a whole lot smaller than it is today. So I hope that you'll decide to keep it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, would anyone else care to speak on this issue under the public hearing? Okay, if not, I will close the public hearing. We'll go to council comments. Councilmember Yu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think if you go by the street, go by the block, this is the biggest tree there. Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of big trees on that street, actually. So I really hate to see this tree go. Obviously there are issues with the sidewalk lifting and all that. I think we need to address that. So I would like to see staff work on a solution, see, we can somehow do something to the sidewalk, maybe unconventional, but, some kind of ram or something that would keep allow the tree to survive and live, because I think it's a magnificent tree, and still keep the sidewalk safe and passable. So that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, Councilmember Sternquist?
I'd like to be the 201st person to sign the Save the Tree ordinance, but I agree with Councilmember Yu that the tree is worth saving.
Okay. Councilmember Viscara.
Yeah, I think I already made my feelings
Okay.
clear on that. It's also my block, and I walk my dog up and down that street. I've been jogging it for years, and I love the character that it gives that area and that part of the street. I wish we had them all the way up and down the street. So, yeah, I'm for keeping it. And you made a very good point about the fact that that problem exists throughout, and it's more than 10, I know it. And then you have I would point out, you have a reverse problem right on Primrose and Woodruff, where there's a tree that has a huge limb that comes out, and Carl and I can't walk. We have to bend over to get under that thing. We could knock ourselves out. I think that's a big liability. So there's a lot of stuff like that that probably needs to be looked at. But the other thing I would wonder about, whether we could or should do something, is once we have that sidewalk up, clear the dirt away, would that be a good time for us to call the gas company and have them take a look to see if something needs to be remediated at that point to avoid any problems down the road? It's just a suggestion.
We'll look at it.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I pretty much agree with everything that's been said so far. I think we have a great tree staff in our city, and they're not in the business of really taking down trees, but preserving them. And I know they don't take that power lightly, and I am sure it pains them to ever have to remove any tree, let alone one such as grand as this one. And with that said, I think they have enough smarts also to figure out some good options for keeping this tree and getting staff involved, maybe JPI involved, and really coming to a good conclusion as to what we can do to save this tree, because I think it can be done based on what I've heard tonight, and done in a safe manner. And it concerns me, though, that when we have people pointing out that there are a lot of other issues in the city, I just want to point out that it's not the situation now that, since it's been identified, that we should, or that we might want to take a look at. We have to take a look at it now. Because if somebody falls, knowing that we've already identified that, we need to address that. So another thing that I'm sure our staff will look into sooner than later. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple comments. I guess Mr. Rudell's comments on pedestrian safety with sidewalks. We're really trying to balance a number of things here. The trees add great beauty to our city. There's benefits of, the cooling, the summer cooling that it does. I mean, we're in a big urban area, and you get this heat sink that occurs, so the more trees, the better. Trees help with air quality and cleaning up air quality. It's one of the big issues we're dealing with. So that's on one side. We have the pedestrian safety with sidewalks. We're putting sidewalks in on narrow streets where people are walking on streets. That's not that safe. We're trying to address that. We're looking at the infrastructure integrity, that we're not, tearing stuff up. So trying to balance all of those is what we're trying to do, and there's no real simple answer. And, well, okay, thank you. So I also support my colleagues. I think a big, beautiful tree like this, we need to do whatever we can to keep trees like this in our city. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. I believe I closed public hearing. If not, I'll close it. Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this point.
I make a motion that we not remove this tree at this time, and that we do explore any alternatives that we can think of to
It's safer.
to keep that a safe passageway, and at the same time preserve the integrity of the tree.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? No one's opposed. We have approved keeping this tree in place.
Are you happy, Carol?
Okay. Okay, with that, let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back for the rest of the agenda.
Jerry.
I realize everybody's having a good time discussing things, but we'll try to finish the meeting and then allow some time for that.
Yeah, it's on Tempest Street Boulevard. I don't know the address.
Carl, it looks like it.
Okay? All right, it's my pen.
I might need
All
to
right.
use my teacher voice soon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Just
very
pound
much.
that
Thank you very
gavel.
much.
We need to hit
All
the,
right, we'll see you soon.
we need to hit up Fernando yet on that League of Cities. Okay, if I could, we've reconvened. We're now moving to item 9A9 on the agenda, which is unfinished business. We have one item under unfinished business. It's the, item A is the adoption of resolution number 15-5055, approving the installation of an all-way stop control at the intersection of Longden Avenue and Encinita Avenue. I believe we're going to have a presentation from Community Development Director Michael Forbes. Michael.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm going to give a brief introduction before turning it over to Jana from TransTech. This item was last before the council on November 18th regarding the installation of a proposed all-way stop control at the intersection of Longden and Encinita. The council asked us to come back for further discussion on this item and specifically to look into two issues. The first was liability concerns and what, if any, liability the city would incur from installing the proposed stop control. The second was looking at recommendations for ways to increase the visibility and awareness of the proposed curve ahead signs and stop signs, both in the immediate period after they were installed and over the long term. With regard to the liability issue, staff contacted JPIA and had a discussion with them. And as is discussed in greater detail in your staff report and the attachment, these improvements and other traffic improvements fall under the design immunity provisions of the law, which in a nutshell state that if traffic improvements are designed by an engineer, meet the criteria of the MUTCD, which is the Traffic Controls Manual of the State of California, and are approved by the city council, as long as that process is followed, then the city is immune from liability under the design immunity principle and would not incur any specific liability related to installing these improvements. And because the design immunity applies to all traffic improvements generally, the specifics of a particular situation, such as whether or not, whatever the conditions were at this particular intersection, do not come into play with regards to liability, so long as that process is followed and the design immunity applies. With regard to the second issue about ways that we can make the signs more visible in the short term and over the long term, TransTech prepared a supplemental traffic report, which is included with your staff report this evening, which proposed some additional improvements beyond what was originally proposed to address that. And with that, I will turn it over to Jana Robbins from TransTech to provide more information on that aspect of it.
Good evening, council, members of the public. My name, as Michael said, is Jana Robbins, and I work for TransTech Engineering, and we are the traffic consultant for the city. At the request of the city, we prepared an independent engineering review of the intersection of Longden and Encinita. Based on the engineering review, we recommended the installation of an all-way stop with advanced warning devices. The These measures, we feel, would enhance operations and safety as well as provide acceptable gaps in traffic for vehicles to make left turns into and out of the intersection. Just as a short recap, sorry. This is the existing conditions at the location. As you see, Longden, both directions, comes in at a curve with Encinita. There is stop control, as you remember, on Encinita. Longden has no stop control. We are recommending, for line of sight purposes, that always stop control would be beneficial. These are a few of the pictures showing the curve as they come into the intersection. These are from both directions. So we get down to our recommendations. Our recommendations are to install stop signs and pavement legends on the east and west leg of the intersection. Let me get to the picture, maybe that. Here we go. This is our proposed aerial. As you can see, we're recommending stop signs for the east and westbound direction, updating the faded yellow curve warning sign that's for the eastbound direction with the vivid yellow with the 25 mile per hour sign. Let me see if this will work here. Right here. Then we're recommending a advanced warning signs. Let me go back. Advanced stop ahead warning signs with the flashing beacon. This would be for both the eastbound and the westbound direction, and that it'll include pavement legends for stop ahead also.
I believe this is the new recommendation, right, the flashing beacon?
Yes, we've added the flashing beacon on top of the stop ahead sign to give added warning that the new stop sign is approaching. You are approaching the new stop sign.
Would that be a permanent light?
This would be a permanent flashing beacon, yes. Let me put here. Let's go back. For temporary now, we are suggesting that the stop signs for the east and west direction be oversized for added visibility, and then not temporarily for the stop sign size, but to add the orange flags behind the stop sign for the east and westbound direction. This would draw attention to the stop signs.
What is the size of the regular stop sign?
It's 36 by 36, I
So
believe.
they're a foot smaller.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you guys ever give any thought or consideration, I know we've seen, and a few people have mentioned it to me this evening, the stop signs with the lights on them?
We did look at that.
Are they just a matter of expense, or?
I think a big part of it is the expense. So you're talking probably, you're talking in the thousands versus a couple
one
hundred
sign?
for a sign, yes.
Really?
With the LEDs on the outside. So the flags, the orange flags would be as a temporary basis, the larger oversized signs would be permanent. Now, this is a little bit different, is we're suggesting that a white line be painted to align the intersection a little better so that the eastbound stop, instead of facing downward, it would be facing straight ahead, so you're able to, this line right here, instead of the red, it should be the white line right here. So you're facing more, you can see this direction and this direction better. And then also this is a curve, a little bit of curve here to align the intersection right here.
We're not gonna have the crosswalk?
We are not suggesting a crosswalk at this time.
People crossing
The kids are doing it anyway.
I know, but I thought last time we had that discussion, we wanted to discourage people from crossing there.
Correct. What we'd like to encourage, because over at Oak, there is a traffic signal. And then, as you know, Longden Elementary School is down to the east of Oak. At Oak, which is signalized, it has yellow crosswalks and it has a crossing guard. So we're encouraging the students to cross at this location that is more protected. It's a 90-degree angle intersection, has a crossing guard. So but at that time, they should cross into the right side of the street and proceed towards this intersection using the existing sidewalks instead of waiting until crossing at this location.
I wonder if that's something that we need to emphasize with the school district perhaps, so that they can enforce it from their end.
Well, it is legal to cross
Yeah, you can't
anywhere.
stop
It's
them
just,
from
it's,
crossing.
we're suggesting
I
it's
see.
better to cross at this.
But I agree with you,
protected-
Vince. I think maybe a memo or something to maybe the superintendent. I know you have regular discussions with Ms. Perini. Maybe they might want to highlight that
Right.
of our request or discouragement of crossing there.
Because there's 3 schools. It's-
Doesn't hurt to
it's-
ask.
It's Oak, it's the high school,
Right.
it's Longden that use this. Okay?
All of these measures meet guidelines as set by the California MUTCD as well as the CVC, California Vehicle Code. So, any questions?
And I see from your report, we're going to conduct an ongoing survey also to determine what's going on there, I guess. It says conduct a speed survey measuring the speed of traffic 2 to 3 months after the stop control and other sign markings are installed.
Yes, we could do it after study.
Well, it says in your
Yeah.
report that, at least in our report, it says that that's going to be done. Who's going to be doing that?
We
We are?
will, with TransTech, we're going to be taking some of those measurements in other intersections too. It'll be just kind of a standard, it's not standard operating procedure at this point in time for us to do that, but we're going to take a little bit more due diligence in trying to look at those things again. Not worried about from a liability standpoint, but more from an effectiveness standpoint.
Yeah, I think that was the same. I mean, when we're talking about the Garibaldi-Rosemead intersection, same thing. Once we make a significant change someplace, to just sort of watch it and take a look at it and
Yeah, maybe.
see if there's anything needs to be tweaked to it or
Tweaked,
something,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to, with Jana concluding her presentation, I just wanted to wrap it up and say that we're requesting before you this evening to adopt the resolution to approve these improvements. And as you mentioned, one of the recommendations would be to come back in 2 to 3 months to do a speed survey and determine if we need to take a further look at the speed limit through this area. For fiscal impact, we're estimating that the cost of these improvements is going to be in the neighborhood of about $4,000, and we can cover that in our existing budget for street and sign improvements. So we don't believe there would be any budget impact, and we're not requesting any funding at this time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay,
It looks like
any other questions from council members? Okay, if not,
Mayor, before you go, I feel compelled to ask the question of our TransTech rep. We're confident that we're not increasing the likelihood that somebody is going to cross. We're not putting crosswalks in, nor are we putting signs up that say don't cross. By putting the stop sign in, we're not increasing the likelihood that somebody's going to cross here.
I mean, legally, you can cross here. By putting a white stripe or a yellow stripe does not mean that, it doesn't increase your safety of crossing. It just, while you're crossing, hopefully without that stripe, someone will take the time to look both ways before they step into the road and cross.
I'm saying,
Yeah,
should we
I
put
know.
up a sign that says don't cross here, go down to the end of the street?
I've seen it done, but then it kind of affects some of the residents, the adults that maybe walk.
What I
in, so,
know
yeah.
with great confidence, regardless of what the Streets and Highways Code says or the Vehicle Code says about where you can cross or where not, if somebody's hit crossing here, we'll be sued. And we'll have to defend the suit. And it is better to put up a recommendation that says, don't cross here, cross down the road, regardless of whether somebody can legally cross there or not. If they want to cross at their own risk, that's fine. But I'm.
But Eric,
I'm-
wouldn't that have been an issue that JPI would have looked at when we ran this by them? I would imagine.
I don't know what JPIA's analysis or conversation was. I haven't spoken with them. I don't know.
I mean, they knew that stop signs were going in here. I would imagine, I mean, I don't know, what did we ask them to look at?
Yeah, we did not have a specific discussion about pedestrian crossing, but we clearly showed them this is a two-way stop intersection where crossing is legal, and we're proposing to go to a four-way stop where crossing would continue to be legal. They did not raise that as a concern.
Well, and I only bring that up because I brought it up last time. And a few years ago, attending a JPIA conference, one of the sessions was entitled, "You Want to Put a Stop Sign Where?" And Eric raises a good issue that simply putting a stop sign in at certain locations doesn't diminish issues, but may raise more liability issues. And that was the concern that I had originally, and I would have hoped that that JPI would have looked at that and perhaps given us some insight into that as well. I know that they explained, as you said earlier in your report, that about the immunity, as long as we comply with the guidelines and highway guidelines and things like that, but
Yeah,
is
but
this a separate issue?
That's immunity from the stop signs and whether there's a traffic accident. That's not
Okay.
necessarily immunity because somebody crosses.
Well, that's what I mean, so it's a separate issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, people currently cross there now. The advantage of putting a stop sign in, the cars are stopped, so if you're going to hit somebody, you're not going very fast. I mean, now they're going, I don't know what speeds they're going, but they're going pretty good speeds, and people are trying to cross the streets there.
Or it creates a false sense of confidence that you can cross there safely. I just want everybody to be very confident that this is now a safe place to cross.
Well, then I ask the question as our city attorney, what is your advice on this issue? Should we be looking at other things?
My advice is if your traffic engineer is telling you that it's a safe place to cross, then you can rely on that. But I haven't heard that. What I've heard is it's legal to cross and we're not putting up crosswalks. And my secondary question would be, okay, if we are then putting up stop signs and bars, are we creating in fact a condition that will encourage people to cross? And if we are, whether there's a crosswalk or not, is that safe?
I don't think we need a legal expert to answer that question, or an engineer. I think the answer to that question is yes, it will, no doubt. There's a stop sign there, people are gonna be inclined to cross.
Yeah, but then the question becomes, is it safe for people to cross there?
I recall asking that question last time, why don't we put a no crossing sign? And I think the response was that it's legal to cross, but I think we need to discourage people from crossing there.
Well, I believe with the stop sign, four-way stop sign there, it is safer to cross than ever before. I mean, and also to the mayor's point, I mean, instead of, if somebody should get hit, it's at 5 miles an hour instead of 70 miles an hour. I personally feel that we're making the conditions safer. But whether or not we should take up the city attorney's recommendation or option that he raised, putting a sign that use crosswalk or down the street, that may be an option.
I remember seeing some signs, I thought, somewhere where it points to crosswalks, like, use crosswalk in this direction or something like that.
Or crosswalk in that direction.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I remember seeing signs like that before, but I wonder if that might be justified in this area. Because we know we can't stop people from crossing there, but maybe a reminder that there is other better crossings somewhere else.
Yeah, crosswalk next block or something like that.
I don't know. Is there such a sign? Is there?
Yes.
Okay.
There is such a sign, yes. It's normally,
You got one, Jared? What's it say?
Well, it has the man with the circle and cross going through. Warning, no pedestrian crossing and no crossing with children.
Yeah, but I don't know that we can put no crossing there.
If I can ask, for,
There's 88 laws too that might prohibit that.
You can't.
Okay, city
for
manager.
our city engineer, and for our community development director, additional signage that provides that warning beyond what may be some visual impact to the neighborhood, in conformance with the Uniform Traffic Code and all state regulations, is there anything that would prohibit us from, for lack of a better term, being a little bit more aggressive on the warning signs in and around that area about here's the direction to go for the, what we have designated as a safe street to cross?
There's nothing that prohibits it, so you could place it, but in my mind, if you're placing something that says, do not cross here, then it seems that you are saying that it's not safe to cross there.
Yeah, but we
You're
could,
acknowledging that it's not safe.
we could.
I mean,
we-
all we can do is what's reasonable within our
Understood.
guidelines and do the best we can by placing the warning signs, the stop sign. We can't guarantee it's gonna be safe or not.
Understood.
We're hoping, you know, we're doing the best.
And I don't think we want to put signs here indicating to people that it is absolutely safe to go cross at the other intersection, and then someone gets hit there and says, well, you told me I needed to go cross there instead of here. My experience with do not cross here signs is that people are going to walk where they're going to walk, and I mean, given the distance to the other intersections in the other direction, my guess is you're going to see people jaywalking mid-block. If they don't just walk directly against the sign at the intersection and ignore it, they're just going to go a few steps one way or the other and jaywalk mid-block to avoid going against the sign.
Okay, let me, let's move to public comments. Are there any other questions from council members? Okay, we'll go to public comments. I have one speaker that signed up, Steve Stafford. Steve?
Mayor Blum, Mayor Pro Tem Tom Chavez, council members and city staff. It's my belief if you post no pedestrians to cross, that may infringe on the ADA Act, Americans with Disability. If you have a person in a wheelchair and you have wheelchair ramps there, they have to be able to cross. Secondly, when I grew up in Temple City, when I was younger, they had 15-mile-per-hour speed limit signs around that curve. My belief is this, it should be 15 miles an hour around that curve to the stop. Should be crosswalks there, you've got a school a block away. I'd like to know how it got raised to 25 miles per hour when the vehicle code even says around a blind curve, 15 miles an hour. I've had that question come up on my driver's test. You know, they need to study this out a lot better. There needs to be crosswalks there. And if you've ever been to El Wani, there's a Catholic church on Tyler and Montecito. They have the stop signs there across the street from a church that flash red, the little LED like Mayor Pro Tem Chavez was talking about. And I think several of you were talking about that. You need to have the signs that flash there. The yellow light proceeding, it should be both east and west proceeding, flashing to warn people of the new stop signs there. I think having just one side is not good. It should be from both east and west direction. I don't think that the way this is being done quite right. You know, you're putting a stop there. People should be able to, people are going to stop. People should be able to cross. If you have a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on the bend, that's not reasonable to the vehicle code. It should be 15 miles an hour coming to the stop, not 25. You got a school nearby. The school sign warning of the school zone, that's good. But you got a blind curve there. And like I said, I've taken a driver's test. They only give you one page, but it's come up once before. Around a blind curve, the speed limit is 15 miles an hour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else care to comment at this time? Mr. Clift? As you know, when you finish, you know that
Oh, there's one up here and there's even a pen. Well, good evening and Happy New Year to our city council and our staff and Trans Tech. And I'm glad to see this finally pretty much coming to fruition now, putting a stop, because this is a dangerous intersection, mainly because you have the blind curve and you also have a downgrade when you're going east. And this, I think, if traffic stops there, I don't think pedestrian crossing will be a problem, because people already do it, except they just have to watch for cars coming really fast. If a vehicle is already stopped, I mean, that's going to be a lot safer. The other thing is, if we look at the intersection just to the west, Loma and Longden, that one doesn't have any crosswalks. And that one, to me, is more dangerous because you really don't see that street when you're coming up through there. But as far as everything else goes, as long as we have a warning sign before the curve starts in both directions, I think it'll work. I don't
Okay.
think we should have any problems there, because I've been living on Encinita there for over 20 years, and every time I go up there, I either take a little bit longer assessing the situation, or I'll just go on a different way depending on the day, depending on the time of day. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else care to speak on this issue? Okay, I will close public comments. Any other council comments? Mr. Viscara, you want to kick us off on this one?
I don't know, all I can say is I'm okay with the Trans Tech recommendations, and I just leaned over and mentioned to Councilmember Chavez, why haven't we done something here for the past 30 years? Because it's always been a problem, so something's got to happen. I think this is good.
Okay. Councilmember Sternquist?
I agree. I think I would go with Trans Tech's recommendation,
Okay.
but I have always wanted there to be a no crossing sign.
Okay.
Okay,
Councilmember
Mr.
Yu?
Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Trans-Tech and staff's recommendation. I, commend them for doing a good job, because this was brought up and they took it back and re-study it. I'm not concerned with not putting a no crossing sign there. I think people will cross. Whatever sign you put, they will. So I'd much rather see that that we have actually improved the situation by putting a four-way stop there, and we have engineering data to back that up, and I think that's the most important part. I appreciate the adding of the flashing light, because that was also a question that we brought up last time. So I can support the recommendations.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I too agree with, and I thank Director Forbes and Trans Tech for the extra work involved in this. I think you guys addressed the issues of concern that we had. I still have a little bit of concern, and again, I don't know that there is even an answer. I think maybe rather than, of course, you could put up, as Councilmember Yu stated, you could put any amount of signs you want. People are going to choose to obey them or not. That's just the way it goes. But I think a matter of education, I think explaining, reaching out to our schools who are going to be mostly affected by this, to perhaps let the parents know in that area of what we're doing and what we hope to happen. And also maybe incorporate it into our neighborhood watch in that area at the next one. I don't know when that will be.
It's coming up
but,
soon.
But that would be something that we want to highlight, highlight at that meeting about this change, and let people know and how we feel about what would be the safest way of crossing in that area. So I think time will tell. It's a matter of education, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, I too support Trans Tech's. I thank Michael and Trans Tech for going back and beefing this thing up a little bit. And, okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Bloom, I would make a motion that we adopt resolution number 15-5055, approving the installation of an all-way stop control and related signs and pavement markings at the intersection of Longden Avenue and Encinita Avenue.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? No one's opposed. This item has been unanimously approved. We will now go to item 10, new business. We have one item under new business. It's a request to develop a 2015 Veterans Day celebration event. I believe
I'll take it, Kathy. I'll take it.
Changing seats, okay. Public Works, Parks and Recreation Director Kathy Burrows.
Director Burrows is a little busy this evening.
Again, good evening, council members. There's been a request that has been proposed by Councilmember Sternquist to provide a 2015 Veterans Day celebration event next year. Just real brief background, the city did a Veterans Day event for many years, probably from the late 90s until about 2005, I want to say, 2004 here in Temple City Park. We discontinued the event here in the park because attendance was declining, and Supervisor Antonovich started doing a large-scale event at County Park in Arcadia. Our Veterans Day event was normally held the Saturday before Veterans Day. In 2005, we changed, tried to get more attendance, and we started doing breakfast over at Live Oak Park. We did that for a couple years, and then that attendance dropped off as well. The last event we did was in 2010. We combined, again, tried to combine a Veterans Memorial event with our senior health fair at Live Oak Park. But since then, we have not done an actual Veterans Day event here in the city. I indeed need to make a correction to the staff report. Math was a little bit off. It is the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, not 50th. So we feel that it's appropriate to plan an event for, at least for this year, to try it again and see if we can get participation. The city would look for, we would recommend that the council allocate in next year's budget, when we get ready to prepare the budget for next year, up to $5,000 for this Veterans Day event. And we would propose holding it on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2015.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from council members? Okay. with the-
I do. Who's going to take the lead on this? Is that, are we
The
going to have?
Parks and Recreation Department one?
The Parks and Rec Department?
Yes.
Okay. Should there be other parties involved? I mean, I know there's probably people out there that would like to maybe help out or
We're
participate.
certainly
I'm sure
open
you
to
don't,
that.
you won't turn anybody down, maybe.
We will not, and when we take a look at this, we'll look at the various options, and we were actually having preliminary discussions about a year ago to do a Veterans Fair type of event with, possibly with Senator Hernandez. Other projects came up, and that was put on the back burner at the time. So we would look at various options to present an event, not necessarily just a recognition, but maybe some other ways of doing things. So if anyone in the community is interested in this event, we're certainly open to any suggestions, ideas, working with us
So this
on
will
it.
be a staff-run program, not the Parks and Recreation Commission, then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Commission can certainly give input.
Well, I'm just thinking of how do we get the word out to people that we're planning such an event, how they can help? Should there be brainstorming session with the groups? I don't know.
Councilmember Chavez, Mayor Pro Tem Chavez,
I'm still a council member.
I shared with our city manager that I had reached out to some people who had in the past been interested in the city having a Veterans Day celebration, and I have a list already of about 5 or 6 people from
Good.
different groups that would like to partake in the planning. A couple from the American Legion Post in Temple City, Sharon Johnson with our Blue Star program. I think if we could have a group of about 10 people, a committee, and I'd be happy to help Kathy's department with that, and actually look and see who we can get to help sponsor maybe a concert, some different ideas, and see if we could maybe even tie in a public art piece, maybe our mural that could be dedicated that day. So,
No, and I that sounds great, and that's what I was thinking about, and because I know there are other people who have expressed an interest in it and sure would want to be part of that.
Sure.
And so I just want to make sure that that will be considered. So, good. That sounds great.
Okay, any other questions for staff at this point? Okay, I'll open it up for public comments. I have one request to speak from Franklin Rudell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. For anybody who doesn't know, yes, I'm a veteran. So I would speak to the issue. I'd be definitely in favor of it. I think it's a continuation of what the community parade is already doing. And something that we did once a long time ago, we invited the Wall to come to our city, the Vietnam Wall. They are traveling ones, and that might be something that we might consider again. There is a group that helps put on veterans events, all voluntary thing, and the gal that heads it up, I don't know if she's paid or not, but I have her name, and she gathers people together for what they do at Rose Hills. Now, they didn't have the wall this year at Rose Hills. I was sadly disappointed in that. I'm sure a lot of others were too. But Rose Hills owned their own wall. There are public traveling walls that we might be able to consider. That might entail more money than $5,000, I have no idea. But I just throw that out, that might be a way of spring-loading the whole thing, because there's still plenty of people from the Vietnam era that would want to participate in that. It does take 24-hour watch and all the time that you have it, so there's a lot of investment of time, regardless of the money issue, so I mentioned that also. But regardless, I think that's something we need to consider, and we do need to do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else care to comment at this time? Sharon? Yes, you do. You need to give us your name and address, and you need to fill out one of the yellow cards.
My name is Sharon Johnson. I reside at 5615 Condo B, Sultana, Temple City. In 2004, we had the Air Force man come. His name was Lieutenant Colonel Craig Plummer, and it was at the Temple City Park. It was no Republican or Democrat that came, which was nice. We had a minister, which was good. I would recommend Pastor Jim, give an invocation, and then he talked about patriotism. And we had a booth, the Blue Star had a booth, and people came over and signed letters for our troops. And I also want to make a note that in November, Veterans Day celebration, Lieutenant Colonel Craig Plummer, U.S. Air Force, was a special guest speaker, and he began sharing. One of the first things he did was to drive up and down Las Tunas Drive to take a look at the Blue Star banners. He was totally impressed with the patriotism of our city. So that's something to consider. As for advertising, a banner across the street would be nice, a big banner, patriotic banner stating when the occasion is, it's going to be at the park, maybe have hot dogs or something. And I've lost my train of thought. That I think it needs to be on a Saturday so people can attend. If you have it on a weekday, our dinners are always at 6:30 to allow people to get home. And I think veterans, we owe the veterans a great deal. I don't think our country does enough in thanking our veterans. None of us would be here if it wasn't for our veterans. And I know the schools are tremendous in our program. They do a lot of things, writing letters to the troops and Christmas cards, and the teachers have done a really good job educating the fact that these men are willing to lay down their life for you. So I really think that doing this would be an outstanding thing for the community to do. And I'm really surprised we have to discuss it. I just, something every city should do. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Anyone else care to speak at this point? Please give us your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Dale Case. I live at 5449 Tyler Avenue, Temple City. And I know the concerts in the park always get a big turnout. And I know it's getting a little bit cold weather, but there's a I do a lot of swing dancing, and there's a band called Pete Jacobs Wartime Review. Band members all dress in military uniforms, and they play the music that was popular when World War II was over, swing and jitterbug and that type of music. And I think we would get a tremendous turnout if we had a band like that here.
Okay. Thank you for your input. I'm sure our staff that normally looks at that considers those things. Okay, anyone else care? Public comments at this time? Okay, if not, I'll close public comments, and I will entertain any other comments from the council members. Councilmember Sternquist can start this one.
I just think it's been a long time in coming, and I didn't realize, I remember having the moving wall here, and I remember coming, and it was so touching and moving, and there were quite a few people that were out, and I just didn't realize that we actually had a specific Veterans Day celebration, but I think it's been a long time in coming back to our city. I know our neighboring cities of Rosemead, San Gabriel, and others do have a Veterans Day celebration, and I think it's just time for our city to come together and honor our veterans.
Okay. Thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, Mayor, I think it's a wonderful idea, so.
Okay. Councilmember Viscara?
I agree. I think it's completely appropriate.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to thank Councilmember Sternquist for bringing this back up. I think it is a worthy event, no question. I know my wife, whose father was a military man, career, always asks me, why don't we have a veterans event? And I never really had an answer, but I think certainly we can pull it off. I know our staff who does great things here will continue to do so. So looking forward to it.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve a 2015 Veterans Day celebration, and if possible, we can discuss the date, whether it would be on Veterans Day or on the following Saturday. I guess Veterans Day is a Friday?
Wednesday.
So
Or Wednesday, and then, so it would be the following Saturday.
Do you want to
Or the prior.
include the $5,000?
Oh, including the $5,000, not to exceed $5,000.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? This item has been unanimously carried. We'll go to item 11, communications. There is none. Update from the city manager.
Just Happy New Year to all, and things are looking bright for 2015.
Okay, item 13, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Anyone have anything? I think we've been on a,
I just have one.
Did we already report out our last meeting?
Yes.
We did report on it.
Yes.
No, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
I have the Strategic Plan Implementation Standing Committee. Just to remind everyone, we have a special meeting on Saturday at 1 o'clock to review the matrix for that plan and finalize that process. That's it.
okay. If there are no others, we go to item 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. Councilmember Sternquist.
I have none.
Okay, Councilmember Viscara.
I too have none.
Councilmember Yu.
Just wishing everyone a Happy New Year.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez.
Same, thank you.
Same with me. Okay, item 15, reimbursement of expenses to city officials for conduct of city business or for city payments of conference expenditures. There is none. 16, we recess to the successor agency to the Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency. I'd like to call that meeting to order. Could I have the roll call, please?
Agency Member Sternquist. Present. Agency Member Viscara.
Here.
Agency Member Yu.
Here.
Vice Chair Chavez.
Here.
Chairman Bloom.
Here. Item 3 is the consent calendar. All items can be approved in a single motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The consent calendar has been approved. Unfinished business, item 4, there is none. New business, 5, there is none. Communications, 6, there is none. Public comments. Anybody care to comment on the successor agency? Okay, I'll close public comments. Update from the executive director and agency council, there is none. Matters from agency members, there is none. Closed session, there is none. We are adjourned with the successor agency. We're on item 18, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. It's been
Mayor Bloom, just real quick, I forgot to mention, just those of you out there, we also have a meeting tomorrow evening, joint session with our Art Commission, first time ever between City Council and our Art Commission to discuss common issues. 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Where is that? Is that here or next door? In the community room. So.
Okay, there are no additional public comments. We are at item 19, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much for attending, and for those watching on TV, thank you very much.